na ang program niya ay Asa Ka Ba? No? It's a devotional vlogs. And also, he is a trainer of The World Needs a Father. So, if you want to attend this training, you may get in contact with our speaker. Maganda po ito, The World Needs a Father. And he is the Executive Publishing Director of Touch Life Global Foundation. He is happily married with his wife, Liza, and they were blessed with 2 children. Yan. So hindi to alam ni Pastor Jebo, kinuha ko lang sa Facebook niya. Yan. Okay, sorry. So, with no further ado, I would like to call on stage our speaker, Pastor Jebo.
Okay, good morning po, and praise the Lord for attending this particular seminar. So this morning, we will talk about bullying. No? So dalawang side lang yan. Either nasa side tayo na ng bully tayo or sa side na ng-bully tayo. So sabi nila. But anyway, this is a very important topic because oftentimes, when we talk about bullying, we're not talking about the implications of bullying. So we have to understand how to properly handle itong cases ng bullying. If you think your child is being bullied, so what do we do? If you think your child is bullying other kids, so what do we do? No? Kasi ang problem po na ito is widespread. In fact, everywhere you go, sa mga schools, makikita po natin na may mga signs against bullying. So apparently, it is that rampant, so it has to be addressed. Ang problem din natin at the same time, some kids are not really into, wanting to bully other kids, but they have institutions that condone this, that tolerate. Halimbawa, I remember when I was in high school, I joined a particular organization, hindi po fraternity, no? Kaya when you join that, may mga pisikalan na nangyayari. So, and sometimes, you grow up thinking that this is normal, no? And then you adapt that particular culture only to realize much later on na hindi pala normal yun, and it is considered as bullying. So, for us to better understand this, let's look at bullying in 2 ways. 1, we will study bullying as a problem. Number 2, we will look at bullying as a symptom of other problems. Kasi dalawang bagay po eh. It is indeed a problem, but at the same time, what caused that particular problem? So, meron deeper problems. So, if we want to address the problem of bullying, we must also address the deeper problems, not only this marami po yan, that creates this problem of bullying. Sometimes, yung negligence at home, sometimes yung ating culture sa ating school or environment, it allows that, it tolerates that, or sometimes it creates that. So the main result is bullying. Now parents, I want you to also understand something very important. When looking at bullying as a problem, remember this, yung buhay po ng anak natin can also be so stressful. Do you agree? So sometimes iniisip natin tayo lang na stress, no? But when you consider all these things going on in the school or in the life of your child, then you know it can be so stressful for them. Now, ang concern po natin sa The World Needs a Father, that's one of the ministries that I do, is how do we help fathers create a home where we can communicate better so that when they have problems, we will know and we will know how to address that. So as we continue, let's first try to define what bullying is. Ano ba yung bullying? Okay, so basically, by definition, bullying is unwanted, aggressive behavior among school-age children. In fact, it's prevalent among school-age children, but we all know that this can also happen in a corporate setting. Sa trabaho natin, sa community natin, this can also happen. And it involves a real or perceived power imbalance. So they call it real or perceived power imbalance. The behavior is repeated or has the potential to be repeated over time. So this is the reason why we have to address this immediately upon recognition dahil ang problem po sa bullying, it is repeated or it can be repeated. So if we do not address this, kung yung anak niyo po yung nabubully over a long period of time, it will create problems for your child, other problems, kung yung anak naman ng bubuli, we want to help them to understand this, to process this, so that it will not be repeated again. Now, keep in mind that both kids who are bullied and who bully others may have serious, lasting problems. So this may happen in a particular season in their life. Isipin natin during elementary days, pero yung effect po nito will last for a lifetime. Yan ang problem, no? Based on studies, halimbawa, if you look at the life or development of a person, yung formative stage kung saan nangyayari po yung bullying can affect the child's self-perception or self-worth, di ba? So yung confidence niya will be affected. When he looks back at his elementary or high school memories, all negative, ayaw natin yun. We want them to have good memories and we want them to develop properly. So, let's further analyze. No? So, in order to be considered bullying, the behavior must be aggressive and it includes one, an imbalance of power. No? Take note, that is something that creates bullying. No? May mga factors po. Kids who bully use their power, such as physical strength. Minsan yung mas malaki kumpara sa iba, nanghingi ng tao. I experienced that when I was in elementary. Hindi ko naiintindihan na bullying pala yun. Pagdawa sa time, we had a recess. Malaging merong upper class na upper grade student who would come and just simply ask sa tao natin. And we never realized na it's a form of bullying kasi back then, it was not such a big issue, although it happens, no? Pero hindi natin narinig yung term na bully before, and we learned to cope with that. No? Pero every time na hihingi yung tao, nahapi natin, bibigay ko sa kanya, only to realize later on, na form pala siya ng bullying. No? Pag yun we just skip simply because he's bigger. Laki, bigay kami. So access to embarrassing information, now I think this is more prevalent now, kasi part din ng bullying, yung cyberbullying. And sometimes, because of what we have in the internet, yung mga screenshots or something that is uploaded or pictures na kinuha without your permission, di ba? Minsan yung mga bata, walang picture, naman na yun sa society natin, ako kung hindi ko magputo, pag kami na-accidenting na ako, sa aking natulunan, ano mo ng reaction ng tao? Video natin to. They take pride in being the first, not to help, but the first to upload. Okay? So, without your permission, that can actually be considered as bullying on another level. So, bakit gano'n ang first reaction ng tao? Instead of helping the person to get up, ang nangyayari po, you take a picture, you post it, even without the permission of the person. Okay? Or popularity to control or harm others. So, yan ang point. So power imbalances can change over time and in different situations, even if they involve the same people. So sometimes napapalit halimbawa, may mga times na yung binubuli, pagka sa akin siya binubuli siya, pag laki niya, pagka mas malaki na siya doon sa isa, siya naman yung mabubuli. So we don't solve the problem, but we change the situation. Pero ang problem po doon, again, the problem is not solved. And then another thing, repetition. Bullying behaviors happen more than once or have the potential to happen more than once. So ito po yung dangerous dito because what we don't want is eventually for the kids to suffer sa kanilang developmental stage because of these repeated actions. No? Kasi, as I said, sometimes yung isang act na mali, at nasundan it may affect the development of the child. So, bullying includes actions such as making threats, spreading rumors, attacking someone physically or verbally, and excluding someone from a group on purpose. Okay? So, try to look at that. No? Nangyayari mo yan sa mga anak natin. So, it is classified actually in 4, but we will look at 3. Yung isa is verbal bullying. It is saying or writing mean things. It includes teasing, name-calling, inappropriate sexual comments, taunting, threatening to cause harm. Very typical to. No? I think especially now that we have itong social media, we can create other identities. Ang nangyayari po, this is very prevalent. In fact, kasi sa pamilya po namin, yung dalawang anak ko, the youngest is 5 years old, yung eldest namin is 13. Now, with a 13-year-old child, when she turned 12, sabi namin sa kanya, that's the only time you can have a smartphone. 12. But before we gave her the phone, we set the rules first. In my experience as a pastor, pastor and even as a trainer of the world needs a father, yung phone ko or gadgets become a point of conflict between the parents and the child. Tama ba? No? You know why? Kasi hindi naman sila pinanganak ng may cellphone, no? Usually tayo nagbigay, who pays for the internet? Tayo din, no? Tapos tayo rin yung problema. But anyway, I think the reason is because we give it to them without any set of rules. Do you agree? So kami, ang ginawa namin, sabi namin, you can only have a gadget of your own when you turn 12. At ang rule ko namin sa kanya is you can only use it for a certain period of time and with our supervision. So that was the arrangement. And later on, she violated some of the agreements and I asked her this question, Anak, it seems that you are exceeding the number of minutes na binigay namin sa iyo. Can you manage yourself or do you need my help? Sabi niya, Daddy, I think I need your help. So sabi ko, sige, solve mo yung phone and I will just give it to you pag kailangan mo na and monitor your usage. So hindi po addressing yung environment because she agreed to those rules. We set those rules before we gave the gadget, so tinabalik niya. And part of the rules is we will monitor the conversations ongoing sa chat. Wala po siyang social media, but all of us know that in most schools, if not all, they use Messenger as a means to convey yung kanilang mga assignments, etc. So sabi namin, we will monitor all the conversations. And actually, sa bahay po namin, my kids can access my phone, except my GCash. And my wife can access my phone, I can access her phone, so lahat kami open dyan, just to set the accountability in the family. Now, bottom line, sa amin pong daughter, we can monitor the conversation. And praise God because we have that particular arrangement. You will be surprised at the content of the chat groups. Age 12, no? Masasyak ako sa mga content ng mga chat among classmates, no? What they forward, what they talk about, and even sometimes ito mga bullying na ito, makikita mo yun ongoing on. So it's good that we're able to monitor that so that we can properly process the situation. Now I understand not all parents have that same situation. And we want, later on I will tell you how to do it kasi what you don't want is to look back and regret why you even gave them a gadget in the first place. Ayaw namin yun. Kaya kami, before we gave our children the gadget, palaging merong rules that they would agree. Okay? Agree with it. And when they agree with those rules, may accountability. And that is important. So, you have verbal bullying, you have social bullying, okay? Sometimes referred to as relational bullying, and these are some of the things. Leaving someone out of the workforce, which is very common. Telling other children not to be friends with someone, spreading rumors about someone, embarrassing someone in public. So we call that social bullying. Okay? And then another one is physical bullying. Now then, ito yung talagang tinatawag nating bullying, no? Yung mostly physical. I've experienced this. I've been on both sides of this. When I was in high school, as I said, I joined a particular organization. They normalized yung physikalan. No? So, isa na sa receiving end ka ron, tapos dahil kultura tayo, so akala ko normal yun. So you pass it on to those others there who are new to the organization, but only to realize later on it's not normal. So, sometimes because the organization is accredited by the school, meron kang assumption that everything that goes on in that particular organization is okay. Until you get educated and realize na hindi pala. Okay? Now, let's first diagnose. How well do you know your child? This is a good tool. Okay? I want to be more practical with this. Ito po ang tool na ginagamit natin to assess the world of your child. Now, before I continue, let's look at the lines. No? Yung single line means that there is a relationship. Two lines means there is a good relationship. Jagged line means that there is conflict. Okay? Patanong muna. Alin po dyan ang pinakamalungkot na bata? Okay, check. This one? Okay. Meron ba kayo naisip? This one? This one? Actually, ito. Yeah. Kasi ito isa na ito, this one is living in isolation. This one is living in isolation and the only relationship na meron siya is jacket. Or ibig sabihin niya, may conflict. Now, what they do with this is they ask the child to draw the social structure in the classroom. So, you can also draw this for them just to find out. Kami, tinitingnan namin to because we want to understand. For example, sa panganay namin, homeschooler po siya until grade 6. Then we transitioned her to regular school ngayon, grade 7. And just so happened, medyo overwhelmed siya kasi maraming adjustments sa mga classmates already knew each other prior to grade 7. And not only that, she was elected as the class president. At alam niyo naman, kung may position ka, bisa may mga conflicts din na nag-create in the process. So it was not easy. So ito po, pinipigure out namin sa kanya. Just by talking to her, or making your child draw this, you will understand sino sa klase yung magkakamag-anak, sino yung magkakaibigan, sino yung may conflict, di ba? At sino yung pinakamalakas ang influensya. In fact, sino po dito pinakamalakas ang influensya? No? Palagay nyo, sino pinakamalakas? Some people would think it's this one. Actually, it's not this one. It is this one. Okay? Kasi siya yung leader and she develops good relationships with all these people. Although she is connected to most, her relationships are very shallow. Okay? So, very shallow relationship. So, what we want to understand is the world of our child. So, pwede nyo gawin ito sa anak nyo, kung nagkikwento yung anak nyo. Yeah, the good thing about what we did, kami ng wife ko po, after we got married, tapos nung nagpaplano kami mag-anak, ang sabi ko sa kanya, magpapalako ka ba or hindi muna? Sabi niya, hindi muna. Sabi ko, yari, na-scam ako. Actually, she said that we decided on purpose because we wanted to homeschool our children. So that means I would have to be the single income earner. So it was a tough decision. And at the same time, sa case ko po, I have been offered several opportunities to work from 8 to 5, which I declined kasi ayoko po mag-work ng 8 to 5 dahil naman ako people. Ayoko mag-work ng 8 to 5 and the reason for that is because I do not want to be caught in the regular office hours schedule, no? Na 8 to 5. Ayoko yung naalis ako ng bahay, tulog pa sila. Uuwi ako ng bahay, tulog na sila. Okay? Wala mo akong umuwi. So we made a decision and that decision actually is benefiting us right now. Kasi yung wife ko po is homeschooling. Homeschool yung pangalan namin in a few months, we homeschool the youngest. And praise God because we were able to enjoy each other's company during sa formative stage. Now, kaya importante ito is because you want to understand ano po ang relationship na anak ninyo sa ibang mga tao sa school. What you don't want is for child to be this one, your child to be this one. Kasi ibig sabihin nito, she has no other connections. She's living in isolation. She wants to belong to this group, but she's not accepted. Kita niyo, imagine the stress of this child going to school every day, or this child was not support system. So kung kayo po ay meron ka na, it's okay if this is your child or this one, kasi alam niyo, she belongs to a particular group that has a strong relationship with each other. So pag may birthday, sino po gusto niyong imbitahin? Okay. Most likely, ito yun. At the same time, if you want to understand who influences your child, you choose this person. Okay? Influence your child through this person. Make friends with the family of this person because she will be the key to influence your child. So, social structure, no? Isa hindi tayo aware dyan, but actually, kahit kayo, if you belong sa business or corporate, you can actually do this as well. So, pwede nyo malaman what kind of relationships are existing in my work and how can we improve this? Kahit sa sports, di ba? Halimbawa, may team kayo, basketball. Check nyo, sino ba yung lagi nagpapasahan, sino na nagpasahan? And you realize that there is something wrong with the relationship. It's not just about skills, it's about relationship. So this is a way to actually check if there is something wrong going on sa inyong mga anak. Now, as I said, because you're able to spend enough time with your children, especially sa first one, nangyari po, every time I drive her to school or take her from school, going home, palagi mo tanda, yun naman ang advantage na anak namin, mga CCTV, no? They tell you everything, no? Dati si ganito, si ganyan. So, nagkikwento. And through those conversations, we were able to assess sino kaya yung close sa anak namin. And we decided one time, kasi one time, kung may birthday sa kanyang school, and she got invited. So alam namin, with a limited number of people that can be invited, she was among those invited. So it gives us peace of mind that she has really close friends at school. Nung nag-birthday din naman siya, we asked her, anak, sino yung gusto mong i-invite? So she gave us a list. So now we know that she has these people supporting her. So it gives you peace of mind that although you are not always in the school, you get an idea of what's going on in the school. Now parents, this is very important. As I said, sometimes hindi natin na-realize the world of our children can be so stressful. Para isipin natin ang bata-bata, ang simple ng buhay, no? Pero ang reality niya, it can be so stressful, and that stress is happening during the formative years of your child. So can you imagine formative years, no? Pag dyan po nangyari yung mga stress na yan, mga hard na yan, eventually it will have an impact throughout the rest of their lives. I don't know how many among you, sa World Days of Father, we do a training for fathers for 3 days. Okay? So ngayon po, hindi natin gagawin 3 days. Kasi naiksi lang yung time. So 2 days lang po tayo ngayon. Pati sa training to, we just only have a few minutes. So medyo hindi natin makukover lahat. But the point is, try to understand the world of your child. Don't ever assume that because they are young, they are free from stress. That's far from reality. And keep in mind that this is during the formative years of your child. Not only that, let us also try to identify kumusta yung kultura ng ating school. Importante yun eh. No, halimbawa, let me go back to this one. As mentioned earlier by our MC and ministry head, it's good that you have a church to go to. Kasi kung hindi nangyayari yung magandang relationship sa school, they need to go to church to be involved in other kids. Very intentional po ang church to help them to have that good relationship with other children. So kaya mahalaga yun eh. Na huwag lang sa school kasi imagine, kung sa school ganito yung senaryo, kailangan meron siyang community where he or she will be accepted. So the church can offer that. And we saw that also sa aming mga very important yung church setting. Now, back to this one, your culture is also important. No? As I said earlier, pagka kasi mo problematic ang culture, it makes everything looks normal. Yan ang problem sa culture eh. Halimbawa, let me give you an example. No? Sa Pilipinas, hindi ko tayo masyadong mahiling tumawid sa tanan. Tama ba? Diba? Paano yung sa atin yun? No? Anyway, one time, I had the opportunity to go to the States. Tatawid sana ako, naalala ko lang sa States ako. So, hinahanap ko yung tawiran. Nung tumapak po ako sa tawiran, lo and behold, 6 lanes, one side, another 6 lanes on the other side. Ako lang ang tatawid, but they won't stop. Doon ko lang naman natawa. So anyway, ako tumatawid, sabi ko, gagawin ko sa Pilipinas. So when I went home, nagdadrive ako dito, pagtaman ko po sa mga tawiran na tama, pinapatawid ko lahat. Ang problem naman sa Pilipinas, kung nagpatawid ka, hindi naman nauubos. Dami-dami. Ang hirap, ano? You want to have good adjustments to introduce good values and culture, pero ang problem po, if the existing culture is problematic, then it's very difficult. So, ito po very important dito kasi sometimes when you think about schools, you think only of what they can offer as far as academics is concerned. But you also have to improve the culture in the school. Kaya po yung working together of the parents, the teachers, this is very important. Because basically you're creating the culture that will normalize what is going on. You're not dyan, culture normalizes everything. Kahit na mali, it becomes normal because everybody else does it. So kaya importante po yung relationship with the parents and teachers to create the right culture. Because if the culture is problematic, then everything else that will go on will be problematic, but it will appear to be right because the culture is problematic. Okay? So, aside from that, let me introduce to you yung problem of fatherlessness. As I said, I do trainings for the World Days of Father. So sabi nila, hindi ba problem yung motherless fatherlessness. Actually, based on studies po, the problem of fatherlessness is a much bigger problem than the problem of motherlessness. The training is called The World Needs a Father. And what's funny is sometimes you do trainings of The World Needs a Father, and guess who attends? Mothers, one-time lolo, lola, yaya, quote-unquote guardians who were sworn into their position the day before. Okay. So bigla naging guardians. Ang problem natin, ano ba ang impact nito? Now, if you try to look at this, and just try to, if you're a mother, or if both parents are here, tagalin muna natin yung fatherlessness. Let's look at the problem for both parents. No? For both parents. Sometimes, you have your parents with you physically, pero ang question po, baka they do not know how to parent their children. Some parents are very seasonal in their approach. During the younger years, present sila palagi. Pero nung medyo malaki na, turn over na kay yaya. No? And sometimes that's the case. Parang iniisip natin, anyway, malaki na. Or sometimes, ang mindset, anyway, baka pa, turn over. Meron kong kaibigan, teacher siya. Nakakatawa kasi one time, she was leaving home for school. Yung kanyang anak ko, nagbabay lang. Babay, mami. Tapos nung si Yaya, pupunta sa palengke, yung anak ko nagwawala, umiiyak, no? Parang mamamatay na sa lungkot. Sabi niya, bakit gano'n? Hindi makamubod yung bata. Maniyak kasi si Yaya pupunta sa palengke for only a few hours. Pero nung si mami yung naalis, babay, mami, no? Parang pa yung bata. Sabi niya, what she did, she resigned from work temporarily for a few years, developed that relationship with the child, kasi hindi mo na pwede ibalik yun. And then after developing that relationship na okay na, that's the time she went back to work. Ibig sabihin po, sometimes, akala natin that because you were involved in the younger years, tawag ng seasonal, ay nagagawa na natin yung roles and responsibilities. Yung parenting natin, it never stops. The needs may change, but it never stops. Yung involvement natin should always be there. And then of course, you have the emotionally disconnected parents, lots of times. Ang nagiging problem dito, they are physically present but emotionally disconnected. And after that, the problem of gadgets, which created a complication. Bakit po? Yung parents, because of gadgets, hindi na natin ma-distinguish between home and work. Palaging merong intrusion, kaya nabibis natin yung landline, na pagka hindi mo nasagot, okay lang. Kaya pagkahawak mo yung phone mo, parang they always have a reason to ask you bakit hindi mo nasagot, nandiyan lang yung cellphone. So, nawala na yung line between work and family. Hindi lang yun. Ang problem po, we become emotionally disconnected because the children are also using gadgets. So, pagdating sa bahay, nangyayari po, you have common time together, but you are not connected to each other because you both have other things to do. So, yan yung disruption sa family natin. We're not realizing this. Kasi oftentimes, ang iniisip natin, because you are physically together, you are together. But the reality is, even if you are physically together, you may not be together because of all these disruptions and all other things, no? Na pwede natin makita. Now, let's move forward. No? Si Stephen Baskerville or Stephen Baskerville of Howard University did a study on the problem of fatherlessness. And this is what they came up with. No? Sabi nila, virtually every major pathology has been linked to fatherlessness. So violent crimes, drug and alcohol abuse, teen pregnancy, suicide, all correlate more strongly to fatherlessness than any other single factor. So this is the study conducted. Now, so pag tinignan natin yung inappropriate behavior, okay, this is not directly linked sa ating parenting, how we parent our children. Again, hindi natin sinasabi na naging bully dahil sa parents, but understand that merong malaking contribution ito. And after we talk about that in a while. So, kailangan natin makawaan if your child is being bullied, or if your child is bullying other kids, it may be a symptom of other problems. Bakit? Bakit niya ginagawa? Anong nasa isip niya? We will talk about that in a while. So, tingnan po natin yung ilang mga factors that we have to keep in mind. Wala. Kaya bumalik natin. So, dito po, we have 4 roles for the father. Ito po yung roles ng father.
to establish moral authority, to confer identity, to provide emotional security, to affirm potential. This represents the age of your child. Notice na merong mother impact years where the mother's input is very much needed. Not to say that the fathers are not needed in that season. Ang sinasabi lang natin, it's the mother who is the primary mother of the day, so to speak, during the season. Mother impact years. So validating the father, imparting intimacy with the child, providing care and nurture, and then you have maintaining social network. That's not Facebook. Ang ibig sabihin po ng maintaining social network is that you monitor the relationships that your child has. No? So yun yung number 4. And then making home. So I wish I had more time to discuss this. But the bottom line is, these are necessary inputs that if we don't give them to our children in the appropriate time, we create wounds in their lives. Merong kulang sa buhay nila. Because these are needs. Okay? These are needs. Kaya ito tinatawag tayo father and mother wounds. Okay? Yan po. So merong necessary input that we should give. I will go back to this in a while. Okay, now, let's look at the impact of fatherlessness. Okay, part of the impact, just go through this. Now notice, may kinalaman sa school yung iba, school achievement, educational skill, dropouts. Now, look at number 8, even bullying and victimization impacts of father deprivation. Meaning if the father or the parents are not really involved in the life of the child, this is what will happen. Now, moving forward, we also have to understand na meron pong 6 dimensions ang isang tao. So you have the emotional, physical, social, environment, intellectual, and spiritual. Now, the common problem is this. Usually, we assume that as long as we provide for them financially, they have good education, yung responsibilities natin tumitigil na. When you read studies on fatherlessness, what you will realize is that most cultures will say or will teach that the only responsibility of fathers is to provide financially, may magandang bahay, magandang education yung anak. So settle down, you fathers have quality conversations with children. So kailangan i-ensure natin in what aspects do we need to improve. Okay? Let's continue. Tingnan nyo ito So every season counts. Ito mahalaga itong line na ito. So this is the life of your child. This is your life as well. No? Ito yung timeline now. Ito, yung 70, may maliit na class. No? Kasi baka 69 na tayo ngayon. Kala nyo pag 70, kukunin na ni Lord. Hindi po. Meron bang class na maliit. No? So merong hope. Okay. Now the reason why I'm showing you this one, kasi ito po yung tinatawag na foundational year. Okay, do you agree? Everything that goes on during this season will not stay in this season, but will affect your child for the rest of his or her life. Keep that in mind. Foundational years. So kung yung anak po natin ay na-bully o nang-bully during the formative years, kahit po tumigil na yung bully dahil naghiwalay na sila ng landas, the effect of that experience can also last for a lifetime if it is not processed. So, yung iniisip natin na ihiwalay ko lang yung anak ko sa bata na may ginagawang mali, if you think that solves the problem, well, it may solve some of the problems, but it does not create healing for the child. Kasi baka may impact sa buhay niya na kailangan natin i-process. So, yun ang point ko. Diba? Sometimes yung nakita ka ng bullying. I remember when we were having the orientation for homeschooling, meron po mga parents ko kasama yung anak, and we found out that some of the parents, they do homeschooling for the children kasi nung nasa school daw, regular school, nag-bully, so they remove the child from the school. But the question is, do we solve the problem? Maybe yes, kasi nawawala yung contact between the bully and the child is being bullied, pero hindi po guarantee that there is already healing. Kaya ang importante doon is we identify the problems, we help solve that, so that we can affect the well-being of our children. Now, ito pong template na ito also reminds us na habang yung anak natin nasa kanilang season, tayo rin meron sa kanilang season. Now, in fact, what we have discovered is if you are a young father, you are in your success season, most likely you are so focused on what you do that you neglect the seasons of your child. So, meron nangyayari gano'n. So, just be aware of that. No?
And then, ito po, if you look at this, makapansin nyo, may tinatawag na peer impact years. That is from age 12 onwards. Sino po dito may anak na, just in case na 12 years old pa ka? Ano ba? Ayun, kami. Okay. Ako yung anak ko, panganay is 13. Yung maliit is 5 years old. Pag anak ko is wala pang 12 years old, palaging bukang bibig niya, Mami, Daddy, sama ako. Tama? Diba? Sama ako. Parang tumami asawa ko. Kasi lumalilig pa yung mga bata, yung panganay, mas bata pa. Pag naligo ka, tatanungin ka na sa kapupunta. Parang laging bawat, saan ka galing? Bakit ang tagal mo nawala? Grabe, no? Dahil pa yung misis ko, pero ito ang point. Yung adult is, pag tumungtong na sila ng age 12, not instantly, but more or less around that time, pasinin niyo po, ikaw na yung nagyayaya, sasama hindi. Pansin mo, may sarili ng oras, may sarili siyang schedule, may gusto siya gawin. Ang reality po is a lot of parents get shocked because they realize, akala nila the assumption is that, dito, anyway, maliit pa, dito natin sila turuan pag medyo malaki na. But actually, if we neglect this formative stage, all the negligences will have their consequences pag nag-independent na sila. And they know this is normal because they are developing socially. So it's normal for them to have relationship with other kids of that particular age. Pero ang nagiging problem mo, because now they're developing independence, little by little, nasa shock yung parents kasi dati, gusto sumama, ayaw mong isama, nung ngayon gusto mo na siyang isama, ayaw niya nang sumama. Now you realize, you have a problem. O parang yung season to actually reach out to your child is now coming to a close. Naintindihan natin? So imagine nyo no? Eh, paminsan po, ang problem, if you don't develop the right relationship at this age, and praise God, because we have children around this age, it's very difficult now to have a close relationship with your children at this season. Hindi imposible, but it becomes more difficult. Why? As I said, the tendency is to transition from parents to peers. So why am I saying this? Sometimes parang feeling natin, playing with your kids, no? Yung anak ko, nagbukas ako ng kotse, tutulong yung son ko. Minsan, di ba wala nakatulong talaga, no? Parang dumami yung kaskas ng kotse. Nahulog yung spans, may buhangin, tuloy-tuloy lang siya, ang saya-saya niya. So sometimes, ang tendency natin, because they do these things and they do not put them properly, parang gusto natin, huwag ka nang tumulong. But again, invest in your relationship with them. Make sure, bakit mo? Because the benefit of having a good relationship with them in this season, makikita niyo yung results dito sa season na ito. Some parents will think, anyway, bata pa, bigyan mo muna kayaya, sa muna in charge dyan. Tapos sila nahirap tayo mag-reintegrate dito sa season na to. It becomes very unnatural, actually. Kasi may competition na tayo because of the social development. Get the point? Okay? Kaya paminsan, dito, by choice, we choose to neglect their season because we assume, anyway, bata pa, so we're not aware of what's going on in their lives. Sa season na to, you want to be more involved, but because you never developed the right relationship during the younger years, it becomes now more difficult. Ito ho yung season dito. Pag dumating ka, yung anak mo, sumisigaw ko nandiyan na si Daddy, nandiyan na si Mami. Di ba? Tuntuwa pa yan Dito, dumating ka na nakalis ka na ulit, hindi ka pa nakita. Bila dumating ka na nakalis ka na, hindi ka pa napansin. Because they are so focused on trends. Now, kaya ko sinasabi yan because any tips, any parenting wisdom that we can give or principle without the right relationship, it will not work. Kaya minsan nagpapasa tayo ng mga books, we download things from the internet. Akala natin, just by feeding our mind, we can easily apply these things. The reality is, in the absence of a good relationship, none of this wisdom will create an impact. So nothing can take the place of relationships. Kailangan yan that's the groundwork. Kaya mamisa nakakala ng iba, they attend the seminar, they learn something, they go home, they apply it, akala na it's that easy. It's never that easy. You're listening to a seminar right now,
But the reality is the effectivity of what you hear and what you apply will depend on the existing relationship that you have with your child. So if you don't invest on that relationship, kahit kung ang daming wisdom na marinig later on in life, or you read, or you attend seminars, it will become more difficult because again, everything relies on the relationship that you have with them. Agree? Yan ang kulang eh. Di ba? Pag wala yung relationship na yun, ang hirap eh. So what do we do? Now, during this particular season, Father Impact Years, now take note, discuss ko lang po ito, no? Merong season sa buhay ng ating anak wherein they try to show that they do things on their own. They try to imitate the parents. Now, during this season, either we encourage them to become industrious or we correct them and they feel inferior. Now, take note, yung kanilang competencies are already known and evident during age 7. So, itong mga season na ito, very important yung developments na yan. And if bullying happens during this time, imagine the impact for the rest of their lives. So at age 9, 10, 11, you talk about values, friends, and choices. This is in preparation for the next season of their lives. Para alam nila, pagdating na sa season na yung peer impact years, sino yung friends na pipiliin ko, sino yung pakinggan ko. Yung daughter namin has been telling us dati sa school, ang dami puso-puso kopyahan. No? Yung mga namumordigo, exchange paper, tapos sa exchange, i-mali yung wrong answer. They will actually erase the wrong answer and make it correct. Exchange paper. Imagine, so sabi niya, very rampant sa school dati. So we always tell her, alam mo yung values natin, what is right and what is wrong. So they don't aim for good grades through means na hindi acceptable. So we always explain. Bakit po? Kasi nga, ang problem is when they transition to the next level, kung tawagin natin yung peer impact years, ang magiging problem po niya, usually, because we fail to give them the necessary input during this time, pasok nila sa season na yun, they come into that season unprepared. Hindi nila alam how to make choices, sino po ang ating kaibigan na dapat piliin at ano yung values na ina-uphold natin. So that's why it is important to realize that. Ayan. So pagtutunan po nila dito, may tinatawag na peer group initiation. And keep in mind, hindi po basic ito. Di ba? Sa mga schools may pagkakahan na, may mga mahilig sa mga Korean opera, may mga groups na mahilig sa hindi sa mga anime. And sometimes to be accepted, sabi ng isang psychologist, you need 3 things. Attention, acceptance, approval. They call this the 3 A's of happiness. Acceptance, attention, approval. Now, some people, because they crave for this, ang nangyayari po, they will do anything just to belong. So yun yung tinatawag natin peer group initiation. For you to be a part of our group, kailangan parehas tayo. Okay? Kailangan kumayod ka sa amin. So sometimes nagpupulan tayo. Maliit siya lang natin, tayo nagpakit, tapos pagdating ng ganyan, parang stranger na sa amin yung anak natin. Bakit? Pag nag-iba ugali, nag-iba kilos, bakit gano'n ang magsuot ng damit, bakit gano'n yung kanyang preferences. Again, because they go through this transition wherein the peers will have more impact. That's why they have to come into this season prepared. So we teach them the values before the season, and at the same time, make sure you have the right relationship during the season so that when they have problems, they can approach you. So if they do not have a relationship with you, and they need the 3 A's, acceptance, approval, attention, where do you think they will look for that? Kung hindi binibigay ng parents. Yun, klase. Siya. Kapag namakakil. Kapag kaklase. Tama yun. Yun po nangyayari doon. So, hindi yan ang nangyayari po. Just to get the 3 A's, they go to friends and sometimes they embrace values that are not right because they need attention, acceptance, and approval. Kaya sometimes yung bullying, it happens. Why? Because they want to belong to a group. So they submit to the process of being bullied. Tinatanggap nila yung bullying willingly, Bakit po? Because they want to belong. Yun ang issue. Or sometimes sila yun ang bully
Kasi tingin nila, because they belong to a particular group, they have the right to give the initiation dun po sa kasunod na gusto maging part ng group. So yun yung larger context niya. So, we don't have much time. What we want to understand is that the father and the mother should become the life coaches. No? So we want to train them. So what do we do? Ito po, very important itong slide na to. Itong slide na to talks about the kind of relationship that you have with your child. Where do you need to be as parents? Okay? Now, oftentimes, meron po tayo nasa isip what our child should be. As sabi ni David Bly, a parenting author, he said, someday your children will become like you, so you better be what you want them to be. Okay? So someday your children will become like you, so better be what you want them to be. So bottom line po, dalawang factors po are very important. You have control, 0 to 100. You have love, 0 to 100. So based on these two very important factors, you have the 4 types of parents. Now keep in mind several things. The kind of parent that you are will create a particular kind of child. No? May epekto. No? Anong klaseng parents tayo, may epekto sa atin. Tama? Very obvious. Now, ito po yan. The permissive parents, high on love, low on control. Anong tawag sa bata na lahat ng gusto na kukuha? Letter S. Swerte, hindi. Spoiled, no? And pag sinabi natin spoiled, it's not a positive description, tama? Negative. Imagine, positive actions, giving them what they want, pero negative results. Bakit po? Because, again, aside from love, they also need control. So yung permissive parents tend to spoil their children. Neglectful parents, low on control, low on love. Now keep in mind, maybe, hindi naman talaga sila low on love, but they fail to communicate their love to their children. So sa perception ng bata, kahit na yung parents, mahal yung bata, sa perception ng bata, low on love yung parents. Bakit? Because the parents never communicated this. Some parents are authoritarian, high on control, low on love, they produce rebellious children. This is where we need to be. Authoritative parents, high on love, high on control. Now, take note of the description, parents are fellowshipping parents. So you develop children with good self-esteem and coping skills. Now, keep in mind, parenting is a journey. No? We always emphasize that. So kung wala tayo dito, we have to make sure that we journey towards this. This now gives us a mental image, a mental map of where we need to be. Kasi ito po, basically, if you are high on love, high on control, this puts you in a position wherein you can easily apply the principles later on. Halimbawa, let's talk about communication. Nabasa niyo sa libro, it's good to communicate with your child. That's basic. Almost any book will tell you that. E paano ganito yung relationship niyo? Kahit alam mo yun, and you want to apply that, it will not work. Bakit? Because the kind of relationship will determine if the things you want to apply in your home will be applied. Understand? So it goes down again to relationships. So how can we get from wherever we are right now to this one? Okay? 4 things. Okay? 4 things. One has to do with moral authority. As I said, I'm trying to compress 3 days of training into 45 minutes. No? And I'm a few minutes lang. So anyway, the first one has to do with rules, authority. Meaning we have to teach our children about rules. Now, why is this important? Now, keep this in mind. Nowadays, very confusing po ang standard ng right and wrong. Do you agree? Dati, pag nagtanong sa parents, lalo na sa assignment, pag sinabi ng parents, yun na yun. Ngayon po, pag sinabi ng parents, ay gagawin na natin Google, dati mali ka. Sabi ni Google ganito. Di ba? Iba na yan eh. So, ano nangyayari po, and also because of the moral situation that we have right now, talagang confusing eh. Some things that are wrong may seem right. In fact, yung mga tao sabihin nila, kung ito paniniwala natin, basta mga tayo nasasaktan nila, okay lang ito. Di ba? Iba yung mentality. So we normalize what is wrong. So as parents, understand that we have to set the rules. Now, a good example, if you go to the Bible, this one, Sabi rito, I will be careful to lead a blameless life. When will you come to me? Take note, I will conduct the affairs of my house in a blameless heart. I hate what faithless people do. So very clear siya pagdating sa moral standard. Very clear po siya what values they want to uphold and what values that they need to separate from. Very clear sa kanila yan. So that's moral authority. Okay? Ito yung sinasabi natin, your children will become what you are, so be what you want them to be. Ang mahirap pa dito sa moral authority, sometimes, meron pong tinatawag ng authority confusion. Alam niyo yun? When the parents do not agree with the rules, matalino mga bata eh. Pag mapapayag si daddy dahil kakakalaman ng bonus, doon mapapayag. So ano nangyari? Pinayagan ni daddy, bawal kay mami, pag-alis ng bata, nag-aaway na si daddy mami. Kasi hindi klaro yung values. So it is important to set the values first. Parents align with those values and then convey them to your children. So what we don't want is we have rules, but we don't have consistency. So that we create no confusion. The second thing is a father confers identity. Now, yung bullying is a product of not understanding yung moral authority, what is right and wrong. Sabi ko nga sa inyo, sa ibang group, di ba? If you join this particular club or organization, normal sa kanila yan eh, yung nagbibisika lang. So that's part of the culture. So again, as I said, kahit mali siya, it will appear as something normal because that's the culture of the organization. So by establishing moral authority, yung first one, we clarify the standards. Okay? Kahit na-accepted dyan, we do not align with that. This one has to do with intentionality as far as creating the identity of our children. Ano bang identity ang gusto natin buuin sa kanila? What do you want them to be in all aspects of life? Halimbawa, typical pag nag-attend kayo ng mga kitty party sa Jollibee, for example, anong gusto mo sa anak mo paglaki? Mga Diyos. Okay, typical yan, mga Diyos. So what do you do? Para mangyari yun? Hindi pwedeng mag-stop lang tayo dun sa meron tayong dream for them. But what do we actually do for that to happen in their lives? So, that is identity. Now, keep in mind, this is how important identity is because it's all about the values that you embrace. Now, take note that values will determine how we think and how we feel. Values shape our decision. Values eventually dictate how we behave. Now, ang problem po kadalasan is we settle for behavioral conformity. Ang ibig sabihin, as long as they comply to how we want them to behave, we're okay with that. Anong problem niyan? They behave like that as long as you are with them. Pag wala ka na, wala rin. Bakit po? Because they never really embraced it to the level of values. So kailangan ma-penetrate natin ito, yung level ng values. Because the behavior comes from value system. So kaya kailangan hanggang dito tayo. So hindi ba mag-isa ito, very typical ito pag nasa mga schools po ako. Sabihin ng teacher, yung anak niyo po, ganito siya mag-behave. Sabihin ng parents, hindi ganyan pagkakilala ko sa anak ko. Isa ng tanong ko, sino kaya mas nakakakilala? O saan kaya mas natural yung bata? Sa bahay ba? Sa school? Di ba? Kasi sometimes ang nakikita ng parents is behavioral conformity. Eh, mas matagal sa school yung bata. So nakikita ng teacher yung values ng bata. Diba? Lalo na kung yung parents hindi masyadong involved sa buhay ng bata. Ang dali mong mapapait kasi sa dali yun eh. Diba? Pero iba ko yung level ng values talaga. Like going to church, for example. Diba? Minsan pag nasa church, ang bait natin eh. Bakit po? Sandali lang naman eh. Tutulog lang naman tayo doon. Sabi ko, sandali lang naman eh. So we settle for behavioral conformity. Now, a question, bakit wala ka na sa church? How do you behave? So, ibig sabihin, if you do not penetrate the level of values, ang mangyayari po niya, when you are in the church, iba yung behavior, other days, iba yung behavior. Bakit? Because you never really embrace the values of the Bible. Kaya, nag-iiba-iba. You get the point? Okay, fast forward lang natin ang one there. So, identity by impacting these areas. Emotional. Anong klaseng emotion ang gusto natin sa bata. No? Gusto ba natin yung meron silang sumpong? Sa physical, gusto ba natin yung athletic sila? Di ba? Kasi importante ito eh. Kami mo, no? We want them to be physically fit. So what do we do with our children? Of course, yung kinakain, but after that, syempre, may mga ini-enroll namin sila sa taekwondo, sa mga sports, po. Because you want to form their identity sa aspect ng social. How do we make sure that they develop sa kanilang social skills? Importante yan. Environment, how they relate intellectual, how they relate in their minds, and then spiritual level. No? Ito, let's move forward. Now, yung third, a father provides security. Ito po gusto ko i-highlight. Because this now talks about relationships. Now, pakibasa po yung subtitle, Walking the Journey from Here to Now. Ang ibig sabihin po nito is we want to make sure that we are approachable, that our children, when they have problems, they can come to us. Yan ang gusto natin mangyari. Now, one of the things we do in the world needs a father, remember this? Okay, paano tayo makakarating dito? Okay, this is what we do. Yeah. Now, notice this passage. This is from the book of Proverbs. The name of the Lord is a strong tower. Okay, we know that God is righteous. He will discipline us when we make mistakes. But when we have problems, what do? We run to Him and we find safety in Him. Tama? Paano yun? Ito po. Simple exercise. Okay, skip ko muna ito. Ito. What's the title? That is home. So as I said, this is a three days training. So we're compressing it. Now, one of the things we do in the training, you take a picture of this. Actually, marami pa yan. Bring this home. And ask your child. Or even ask your spouse. Kung meron isang mukha that would best represent me every time I go home, which one? Yung sana ako na, kung uwi si daddy, alam niya yung tsura niya. Isa lang, siyempre, iba na ako, most likely, iba yung tsura mo. Pero kung isa lang pipiliin niya, alin kaya? Yeah. You know why? Let me give you a personal example. My wife showed this to our daughter when she was around 5. Siya pa lang yung anak namin, 5 years old. Nung pinakita ng wife ko sa daughter namin, I thought I was doing a good job already, as a father. Ang sabi ng daughter ko, ito, hindi ko matandaan na din yung mukha, pero kahit hindi nila ma-explain yan, yung mga meaning yan, okay lang yun. Pag may pinili sila mukha, ask them, bakit yun ang napili mo? What's the reason? So, yung pinili ng anak ko, I don't remember which particular emoticon, but when she explained, sabi ng anak ko, Daddy has time for me. Pero napansin ko kay Daddy, he lacks energy when he plays with me. Alam mo, that was a review. It was a timely review. I would rather hear it when she was 5 years old, that time, and I will make corrections than hear it 20, 30 years from now, and I have no way to turn that time to change the situation. So nung sinabi niya yung kailangan Mr. Pure Energy ako magkasama. Ibig sabihin, naging aware ako ng mistakes. So that was an honest feedback from a child. Imagine, if your child can give you an idea, imagine, halimbawa, again, talking about the principles, let's communicate. Sabi mo sa anak ko, ganda yung tsura mo, uwi ka. Aggressive. Yung tingin pala ng anak mo, every time you go home, ito yung pinili niya. At I imagine, sabihin sa yung tatay mo, anak, may problema ka ba? Gusto mo nang kausap? Ito muna mo. Do you think any good communication will arise from that initiative? Wala! Bakit mo? Nakakatakot ka eh. Di ba? Imagine yun. There was one time, I talked to a problematic person. Sabi sa kanya, in-explain sa akin, alam mo, Pastor, yung father ko is a high-ranking officer sa police. High-ranking. Puro kami lalaki magkakapatid. Every time dad comes from work, lahat sila, I think 7 sila, stand at attention. Sabi nila, kami yung mga magkakapatid na ang saya-saya namin, imagine, 7 lalaki. Ang gulo-gulo nun. Kaya nga magdadating si daddy, yung saya namin nawawala. napapalitan ng tension. So, ibig sabihin, is the father approachable? Is he the kind of father that you will go to if you have problems? If I really bully, can I go to him and seek help? No. So, you get the point. Kahit na anong principles bigay natin, in the absence of a good relationship, it will not work. Lahat siya nakapundasyon sa good relationship. So, to develop that relationship, make sure that you bring the right emotions. Kasi when you are in good speaking terms with your child, that's how you solve the problem of bullying. They open up to you pag may struggle sila, or if they are doing something wrong, you can easily correct that because now you have that relationship. It places you in that position wherein you can easily correct them or help them if they have problems. Does that make sense? Okay. Come on. Sorry. Mamadali yung slide, no? Okay. Isa pa, this is very important. Yung degrees of communication. No? Take note, pero intended message, halimbawa yung mga actor is opening up to you. Pero yung interpreted message. Sometimes, sinasabi natin sa anak natin na, pag may problem ka, magsabi ka lang that's your intended message. Kaya lang, kung napansin niya na lagi kang pakot, lagi kang galit, he may interpret that message differently. Sabi mo lang yan, but you're not sincere. Get the point? So, ibig sabihin, if they have problems, they cannot come to you. Ito pa, levels of communication, and we end with this one. Sa degrees of communication, usually, pag kinumusta natin ang anak natin, or pag lumapit tayo, ito ang conversation natin, how are you? Ano sagot niya palagi? Diba? Even without thinking, ang sagot niya, okay. I've been a pastor for as long as I know. Pag nangungusta ako ng miyembro of every situation, kaya hindi nag-iisip, namatayan man niya, nasunugan, nalubugan ng paa, kumusta na ako kayo? Ang sagot, okay. Except, pinunta ako ng bahay, lulusong natin hanggang dito. Tubig, ba? Pagdating natin doon, kumusta na ako kayo? Okay, okay, bakit? Ano ko ganun ba? Namatayan, kumusta na ako kayo? Okay, ano gusto? Ibig sabihin, scam po itong tanungan ito. That's why it is in the lowest level of communication. So if this is the kind of relationship that you have with your child, you have to improve this. Next level, facts. This is when you share or ask for details. How did you do on your test? Ano score mo? Yan, sabi niya, hindi na pwede okay lang. Kailangan may score, may rating. This one is when you offer solutions. What do we need to do? Para ma-improve natin yung situation. So now, you're beginning to show true concern to improve the situation. Level 4 is the minimum that we have to be at. Level 4 is you connect at the level of feelings. Halimbawa, sinabi na anak mo, dati bagsak ako eh. Ngayon ang tanong, kumusta ka? Kumusta yung pagtanggap mo sa grade? Are you okay? Ano yung feeling na natanggap mo yung ganung grades? Diba? It can be frustrating. And sometimes as parents, wala naman pakialam sa feelings nila. Importante lang, kailangan namin nabayaran ko para mag-aaral ka, pumasakit na. Diba? Connect at the level of feelings. And then hopefully we can reach number 5, which is total transparency. But that's just now, halimbawa, we have a relationship as friends. You fail. But I am concerned with how you feel because of the failure. Anong pakiramdam ninyo? I am more concerned with you rather than your performance. Kung taong ko ito, ang concern niya ako, hindi yung performance ko. I can come to this person anytime. So that's how we create an environment where we can talk. And then lastly, sorry, ito pa rin last, a father affirms potential. Keep in mind, ito lang po, very important dyan. Affirmation is a better educator than correction. Kasi usually, ang parents, we always correct. Pero alam mo, nagko-correct tayo, it creates a gap. Para lagi na lang ako mali. So one way of putting that correction in a positive note is by affirming. Halimbawa, misis ko nagluto ng sinigang. Sa lahat ng makakalimutan, yung papaasim. So, paano mo sasabihin ngayon yun, di ba? Eh, syempre, pag sinabi mo, ano ba, hindi masama. Di ba? Pag sinabi mo na yung effort ko para mamalengke, magluto niya, mag-prepare niya, lahat yun, hindi ko pagsubo ko pa lang. Yung itsura, mga sinigang, yung lasa, nilaga. Sabi ko, patay, iba lasa. Sabi ko sa kanya, alam mo, isa na lang ulam, perfect na to. Ano yun? Lasa na lang, perfect na to. Nakakawala na kami na dalawa. Wala niya, wala na kalimutan ko. Okay, anyway, kinain na naman, so okay lang. Ang point mo lang po is if you correct someone, nag-create ng gap. Di ba? But if you affirm someone, nag-create ng bridge. Ang ayaw natin is we are always in that position na negative yung ginawa, negative din yung approach. Affirmation is a way to correct your child, but it is on a positive note. Di ba? Halimbawa, kumulong sa'yo ng bukas ng kotse, salamat sa initiative. Di ba? Salamat sa initiative. Hindi yan nagawa ng drama, but salamat pa rin sa initiative. Because that way, you are encouraging not the wrong way of doing it, but the initiative. Bakit hindi naman yan? Okay? So, 4 things. Moral authority, identity, emotional security, and affirmation and potential. So that way, you are developing a relationship with your child. So how does this connect with bullying? Bottom line ito po. If you have a relationship with your child yung binubully sa school, yung source of security niya is not the school, it's not the friends. It is the parents. So the child will remain resilient kasi alam niya, yung parents niya, accepted siya. The parents provides the 3 A's of happiness, acceptance, approval, attention. So, and at the same time, that child can easily approach the parents dahil alam niya, my parents will listen. Kung imanap naman natin ang bubuli and then you apply the principles, moral authority, now they understand, although this is culturally acceptable in some organizations, this is not the right thing to do. So, pati po yun. Okay? So I hope I was able to do justice to this topic. Or again, as I said, we specialize in training fathers, 3 days. We have limited time. So I hope that you're able to get some key information sa ating lesson for today. And then maybe if you have questions, we can also entertain questions. Or you will So let us all take our speaker. So gusto po, may natutunan po ba tayo? Wow! Gusto niyo po ba ng extension nito? Pwede po tayo mag-lockdown. Okay, so let us open the floor for some questions to our speaker. Hindi ba natin siya makakahingayin? Yan, okay.
Mauuna lang po ako. Good morning everyone, I'm Jane. I'm just curious po, no? Given the fact that, let's say, in a family, it may not be an ideal setting, pero nagkakaroon po talaga ng kakulungan in terms of relationship. So if that relationship was not built at home, how do you think can the institution, educational institution such as JCA or JEC, the church, try to how do you put it, reach out to these students? How do they apply corrective measures? Ano ba to? Pag halimbawa, meron na tayo nakitaan na may potential o ang ginagawa nitong batang to is bullying. Does it work like in a corporate setting na I give you a warning first and then verbal warning? And then I'm just curious, what is the right approach? Pag sa family, kulang na, paano mapupulungan ng school or ng church itong relationship na to so that the child will not bully or will not be bullied?
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I can answer the school, no?
Pwede po natin tutulan na yun. Okay, paano naman mababalikan ng parents yung lost time?
Okay.
Doon sa question, in connection doon sa question niya. Kasi naman natin formative years eh.
Okay, okay.
Even the parents.
Okay, some of the policies regarding bullying I cannot answer, no? Kasi specific yan sa school. But this is a good start. No? Kasi itong ganitong venue, we create a relationship between the parents and the church and even the school. Magandang start to. Kasi ang importante doon, you see parents and teachers as partners. No, as partners. Maganda yan eh. Kasi development ng anak ninyo, they give you a feedback. Ganito ang anak mo sa school, ito yung observation natin, you can validate that. So, because you see each other as partners and you have these particular activities that would help promote that relationship, relationship, malaking bagay po yun. Okay, that's one. Now, as far as intervention is concerned, if the parents, halimbawa may narinig ka sa iyong anak na sinabi na ganito yung ginawa sa akin sa school. Now, it's always good to validate that with schools, authorities sa school, through proper channels. Meron kasing tamang-tamang na kakausapin. What we don't want is we end up bullying the bully. Because by doing that, we don't solve the problem. Pinagmamalit lang natin yung sitwasyon. So, as I said, very important po that we understand the proper channels. Maybe Jubilee as a church and as a school can explain that to you on the monitoring process. Now, going back to sa question kanina, what if hindi maayos yung relationship? There is always hope. Kung maalala niyo kanina, yung pattern natin, you remember the 4 types of parents. So meron tayong, yung high on love, high on control, authority and love. If there is one thing that you need to do first, yung unang hakbang, is establish that relationship. Meaning, halimbawa, tingin nyo parang gusto nyo i-correct yung anak nyo, pero alam nyo wala kayong magandang relationship, establish the relationship first. Let me give you an example. Yung wife ko sabi sa akin, hindi mo yung anak natin, kung sabi mo, there was a time na may konting problem kami, we want to correct. Lumabas kami ng daughter ko, papalik, napagalitan ako ng wife ko. Sabi niya, kinausap mo tungkol doon sa issue? Sabi ko, hindi. Sabi niya, bakit hindi mo kinausap? Sabi ko sa kanya, ito yan. I don't want her to associate going out with me with scolding. Build the relationship first. In fact, when we build that relationship, naayos yung relationship, at sa bahay mo magsabihan, walang problema. Ang problema ay nilipat mo sa baby yan, kahit buffet pa yan. Pinilipat mo lang yung area of battle, but you're not establishing the relationship. So kung sakaling mo na napansin nyo, kailangan i-correct, pero you're not in that position to correct kasi yung relationship hindi maayos, spend time with your child, not discussing about these things, just by enjoying your child. Kami sa bahay, inalis namin yung reward system. Kasi what we don't want is for them to assume that we only love them when they perform well. So sometimes we just go out with them and we tell them we're not doing this because we are rich or we have lots of money. We're doing this because you are our children and we want to spend time with you. So yun, that's a good start. And then eventually, maganda kasi pagka yung speaking terms na kayo ng anak mo, you can pagsakay sa sakyan parang CCTV, re-replay mo na lang, no? Ano nangyari? So kwento, ganyan, and then sometimes what I do, halimbawa on Tuesdays, very heavy na yung anak ko, 6:30 ng umaga, up to 6:30 p.m. including yung common, etc. What I do is I buy her food na gusto niya. Pagsundo ko sa kanya, anak, kain ka muna. So we don't discuss things first. Just to show concern, anak. Kumain ka muna, hindi lang ganito. Gusto yung California Maki, so sundin ka yung California Maki. Imagine 6:30 ng umaga, 6:30 na hapon, umuwi. Imagine mo yung stress the whole day na sa school. Nakapagod yun eh. Tapos pagkita sa'yo, ano naman nangyari? Ayaw mo lang gano'n. Relationship first. So, I feed my child, kahit ka sa bahay, kakain din ulit, kain ka muna, anong gusto mo. And then, mamaya, pagka busog na siya, she will naturally communicate. Yan ang napansin namin. So, if you don't have that relationship, work on that, especially kung bata pa. Because that will be a good foundation for intervention in the latter years. Pag absent yung relationship, ang hirap yun. Kasi daming complication eh. Every action that we do might create more gaps, no? Rather than bridge. So, just in the relationship, sama nyo lang, kung walang pag-uusapang issue, sama nyo lang, or sometimes, di ba, yung mga anak natin, kung medyo malaki na, ayaw na sumama, alam nyo kung bakit, hindi na nila trip yung gusto nyo eh. So, kakain kayo sa hindi nila gusto yun eh. Ako tinatanong ko yan ako, saan mo gusto? Lagi sa ganito. Pag siya yung sabi ko saan ang video, excited yun. Kung saan kakain, so meron mga favorite Japanese resto yun, dahil try natin sa ganito. So, instead of me asking her to come, I made her the event planner for the family dinner. Saan gusto? Sige nga, gusto ko ito yan. So, it means that I am concerned sa gusto niya, sa preferences niya, at dahil sa yung event planner for that particular dinner or lunch, kasama siya. So, establishing relationship. As I said, sa school, hindi ko na po masagot. kung paano yung procedures, no? But maybe we can shed some light on that, no? How the school will handle that.
Okay, thank you. So, anyone else? Meron pa kung bang who wants to ask questions? Meron pa kung bang? Go you guys. And good morning, I'm Ken. And actually, I don't have any questions. It's just that I was reminded and I was actually inspired by your talk, Pastor, regarding fatherhood. As a father of one, I also totally relate to other parents as well. And I was also reminded by a quote na nabasa ko sa isang libro dahil dito sa talk na to, that the success of the intervention depends on the internal condition of the intervener. And that is how important parenting is, especially for us fathers then. So I just would like to share na mahirap talaga maging magulang, especially kung masyado tayo nandito at hindi tayo konektado sa puso natin. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. So, maybe one last question. So, anyone? So, if there be none, let us again thank our resource people for joining us right now. So, you can still listen to him sa DZAS 702 and also, ay, pasensya po, there's some flow here. And also, gusto nyo ba yung 3-day seminar niya? We'll see what will happen.